Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. Imagine for a second that your company just spent, I don't know, millions of dollars to build a cutting-edge AI system.
Right.
And this system is designed to hire your absolute top-tier talent. You roll it out expecting a massive boost in efficiency, only to realize, a few months later, that the system is systematically filtering out and penalizing female candidates.
Which is, yeah, it's terrifying.
It is. Your shiny new innovation is suddenly this massive legal liability, and you're staring down the barrel of a headline-making corporate crisis.
Yeah, and the thing is, that isn't just some hypothetical nightmare.
Right.
That is exactly what happened to Amazon a few years ago. I mean, they had to completely scrap their AI recruiting tool when they discovered that very bias. And it perfectly illustrates why we are looking at today's source material.
Exactly. So today, we are diving deep into a really comprehensive, highly relevant article by Felix Römer. It's straight from smartkeys.org, and it's titled Automation Ethics Boards, Governing AI and Robotics Use in the Workplace.
Yeah, it's a fantastic read.
It really is. And if you are listening to this right now, whether you're, an engineering lead, a product manager, or a business executive, this deep dive is an essential blueprint for you. AI and robotics are just moving at breakneck speed right now.
Oh, absolutely. Faster than most can keep up with.
Right. So the overarching mission of our deep dive today is to explore how businesses can avoid driving off a cliff while still, maintaining that incredible pace of innovation.
And doing that requires a total reframing of how we think about governance.
How so?
Well, when people hear the phrase ethics board, I mean, the immediate association is usually red tape, right?
Oh, yeah. Bureaucratic delays, innovation killers.
Exactly. But Römer's piece argues the exact opposite. An ethics board isn't about slowing down your engineering teams. It is about moving fast, but with bounded risk.
Bounded risk. I like that.
Yeah, it's about putting the actual frameworks, the structural choices, and operational tactics into place so you can actually trust the technology you're scaling. Today, we're going to break down exactly how you build those.
I look at it through the lens of automotive engineering.
Oh, yeah?
Building AI without an ethics board is like building a high-performance sports car without any brakes.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, sure, you might go incredibly fast for a little while, and it feels exhilarating. But eventually, you are going to hit a curve. And
Yeah.
because you only installed an accelerator, the crash is going to be spectacular.
Highly public.
Yes, highly public and ridiculously expensive.
I'll actually take that analogy a step further.
Go for it.
Knowing you have reliable brakes is actually what gives the driver the confidence to push the car to its top speed in the first place.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought about it like that.
You can't navigate a complex, highly regulated environment without a mechanism to safely decelerate or, steer away from hazards.
Right.
And the source material outlines 3 massive hazards or pitfalls of unchecked automation. We're talking bad research design, non-consensual data use, and hidden bias.
Let's pull on that thread about hidden bias for a second. Go back to the Amazon example. Because that bias wasn't hard-coded by some malicious programmer.
Right. No, not at all.
It crept in through the data.
Exactly. The system was trained on historical data. So think about it. If you feed an AI a decade's worth of resumes from a tech industry that was, predominantly male.
The algorithm just looks for patterns.
Right. It incorrectly learns that being male is a correlative factor for success. So if your data set is flawed, your opaque algorithms will simply scale and automate that historical flaw at the speed of light.
And the regulatory landscape is completely shifting around this, too.
Oh, yeah. Dramatically.
I mean, we see name drops in the tech world all the time about GDPR in Europe or, the CCPA in California. But if you're building software, those aren't just privacy acronyms anymore.
No.
They fundamentally change your legal exposure.
They absolutely do. And that's because those regulations attack the black box nature of AI.
What do you mean by black box?
Well, under laws like the CCPA and GDPR, you can't just tell a consumer, well, the algorithm made the decision and we don't really know how.
Right, that doesn't fly anymore.
Exactly. These frameworks grant users the right to an explanation. They demand accountability for algorithmic outcomes.
Wow.
So if you deploy a tool that processes personal data and makes automated decisions, catching design flaws early isn't just about avoiding regulatory fines, though, those fines are massive.
Yeah, they can bankrupt a company.
Right. But it's also about mediation costs.
Which is, it is always exponentially cheaper to erase a bad idea on a whiteboard than it is to re-engineer a live system that millions of people are already using.
Exactly.
Not to mention the brand damage. If the public actually trusts your tool, you get resilient long-term user adoption. Trust has fundamentally transitioned from like a soft PR metric to a hard business driver.
That's spot on. So the obvious question becomes, how do you actually enforce that trust? If we know we need brakes, what are the actual traffic laws that a corporate ethics board uses to guide an engineering team on a random Tuesday?
Because you certainly can't just walk into a developer's office, tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, try to code a little more ethically today.
No.
That means nothing.
It means less than nothing, honestly. So to solve this, Romer's article points to the Belmont Principles.
The Belmont Principles. Right?
Okay. This is the foundational framework the board uses to evaluate projects, and it's broken down into 3 core pillars.
Got it.
The first pillar is respect for persons.
Okay, respect for persons. What does that actually look like in a business?
Well, in a corporate product-driven setting, that translates into running consent-aware experiments. It basically dictates that your research workflows must include clear data notices and distinct opt-outs for your users.
Right, so you cannot just secretly A/B test a highly invasive data model on your users and cross your fingers that nobody notices.
Exactly. It mandates transparency up front.
Makes sense. What's the second pillar?
The second is beneficence.
Beneficence.
Yeah, and this requires active, continuous testing of your models for what the text calls harm amplification.
Harm amplification, so making things worse.
Right. An ethics board looks at a proposed system and actively asks, how could this tool be weaponized?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, how could it inadvertently cause damage, and what specific technical guardrails are we adding to reduce those negative outcomes?
Okay, which brings us to the third pillar. And this is where I actually want to push back a little bit.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
So the third principle is justice.
Right.
Now, justice sounds fantastic in like a university philosophy seminar.
Sure.
But if I'm a product manager staring at a massive Jira backlog, trying to hit a sprint deadline, justice sounds incredibly abstract.
It does.
How does a business actually operationalize a philosophical concept like justice into daily software development?
That is the perfect question. And that tension is exactly why an ethics board is necessary in the first place. The board operationalizes justice by translating it into standard, non-negotiable engineering practices.
Like what?
Well, justice becomes mandatory fairness checks. It means requiring engineers to embed privacy by design into the architecture from day one, rather than, trying to bolt privacy features onto a finished product at the very end.
Right, which never works anyway.
Never works. And most importantly, it requires standardizing artifacts, specifically things called model cards and data sheets.
Okay, I've heard the term model cards thrown around, usually compared to nutritional labels for AI.
Yes.
But I think a better way to look at them is as a combination of an ingredients list and an allergy warning.
Oh, I like that. That's a highly accurate way to frame it.
Because it tells you what's in it, but also what it might react badly to.
Exactly. A model card explicitly states the system's intended use, the specific parameters of the training data it was built on, and crucially, its limitations.
So it's very specific.
Very. It might say something like, warning, this model was only trained on North American English-speaking user data. Do not deploy for sentiment analysis in Southeast Asia without retraining.
Wow, okay. That's incredibly practical.
Right. So when downstream developers or stakeholders look at the system, they see exactly how it makes recommendations and where it falls short. That level of explainability turns a lofty philosophical concept like justice into a concrete, auditable business process.
That makes total sense. But a framework is really only as good as the people enforcing it, right?
Always.
The traffic laws don't matter if there's nobody holding the steering wheel. So how should a business actually structure this ethics board?
It's a big decision.
Yeah, because the people you put in the room will determine whether this is a functioning safeguard or just, a rubber stamp.
Right. And Römer lays out 3 distinct structural options, and every single one comes with trade-offs. You're balancing information access, perceived impartiality, and speed.
Okay, what's the first option?
The first option is the internal board.
Internal.
Yeah, this is a panel made up entirely of your own employees. The massive advantage here is agility.
Because they're already in the building.
Exactly. Internal employees have rapid access to your proprietary data, they understand the deep context of the product, and they are inherently aligned with your corporate culture.
Okay, but I see a glaring issue with that, though.
Let me guess.
Isn't an internal board essentially just a company grading its own homework?
Ding, ding, ding.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, if the VP of product is under intense pressure from the CEO to launch a new feature and hit a quarterly revenue target, an internal board of employees is going to feel incredible pressure to just approve it.
Oh, absolutely.
That is a massive independence constraint. You risk complete regulatory capture there.
And the author explicitly notes that exact vulnerability. Internal bodies frequently suffer from weak external trust.
Naturally.
A regulator or an outside auditor is highly unlikely to buy into the impartiality of employees whose bonuses are tied to the company's financial success.
Right. It's a massive conflict of interest. So what's the alternative?
This leads to the second option, external panels.
Okay.
Here, you hire outside experts, academics, industry veterans. They bring incredibly high credibility and objective legal enforceability.
But the friction must be terrible.
It can be.
Because external experts don't know the company's internal code base. They require complex, prolonged contractual commitments, and they're completely removed from the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, they aren't in the Slack channels.
Right. It sounds like a recipe for grinding development to an absolute halt.
It definitely can be.
So I'm guessing the answer lies in option 3.
It does. Option 3 is the hybrid model.
To hybrid.
Yes, it's the structural sweet spot. A hybrid board blends the rapid contextual knowledge of internal employees with the hard impartiality of external experts.
Okay, I can see how that balances out.
And the source material highlights a really fascinating tactic used by companies like Meta to make this work.
Oh, really? What do they do?
They utilize specific legal vehicles, like independent trusts, to boost the independence of their oversight boards.
Wait, let me make sure I understand that mechanism.
Sure.
By using an independent trust, the external board members aren't directly on the company payroll in the traditional sense, right?
Correct.
The trust holds the funding and the mandate.
Yes.
So if the oversight board makes a decision the CEO absolutely hates, the CEO can't just instantly dissolve the board or fire the members.
Exactly. It legally insulates their independence while keeping them connected to the core operations of the company.
That is brilliant. That's the operational magic of it.
It really is. But even with a hybrid structure, the recruitment has to be incredibly intentional. You don't just fill these seats with PR executives to look good.
Right, it needs teeth.
Yes. The article stresses that multidisciplinary recruitment is vital here. You need senior engineers who actually understand the back-end code.
You can't fool them with technical jargon.
Exactly. You need legal counsel who can map the regulatory exposure. You need social scientists who can forecast the downstream human impact, and community-facing specialists.
And I imagine to prevent the board members from getting too comfortable or falling into, groupthink, you have to manage their tenure.
Oh, absolutely. You implement strict term limits.
Makes sense.
The text outlines transparent appointment steps, publishing the role descriptions openly, and running formal conflict of interest checks. You rotate the membership so the viewpoints stay sharp and the board's integrity remains uncompromised over the long haul.
All right, so let's say we have this perfectly balanced, multidisciplinary hybrid board sitting in a room together.
Okay.
How do you prevent governance from becoming a bureaucratic black hole?
Right, the speed problem.
Yeah, because nothing will make an engineering team quit faster than a board that just stalls every good idea indefinitely.
Totally. Speed and efficiency really come down to the mechanics of the board's charter.
The charter.
Yes. The mandate must be concise. It needs to explicitly define what types of projects or data changes actually require a review.
So you're not reviewing every little thing.
Right. A minor UI bug fix shouldn't trigger an ethics board audit. You also need crystal clear decision rights and escalation paths.
Meaning there has to be a documented process for what happens when the board fundamentally disagrees with executive leadership.
Yes.
It can't just be a shouting match in a conference room.
Exactly. And that is managed through highly specific voting mechanics.
How does that work?
So for routine, low-risk approvals, the charter might dictate a simple majority vote.
Okay, pretty standard.
But for high-risk, irreversible choices, imagine deploying a fundamentally new, untested biometric tracking system.
Wow.
Right. For that, the board might require a 2/3 majority or even a unanimous vote.
It makes a lot of sense.
And coupled with that, the text emphasizes a rigid audit trail. We're talking secure storage of meeting minutes, clearly defined budgets, and bringing in third-party impartial audits to spot the blind spots the internal team might just naturally miss.
I want to zero in on something from the article regarding those meeting minutes because it genuinely surprised me.
Oh, the dissent part.
Yes.
Yeah.
It talks about the critical importance of documenting dissenting opinions.
It's so countercultural for most
But
businesses.
it really is. In a typical corporate culture, the ultimate goal of any meeting is alignment.
Right, everyone nodding along.
Right. You hash it out behind closed doors, but when you leave the room, everyone presents this unified front.
Yep.
So why would an ethics board be encouraged to actively document their disagreements? Why is putting your internal arguments on the official record a strategic asset?
It feels completely counterintuitive, right?
Yep.
But capturing dissent serves an incredibly powerful dual purpose.
Okay, let's hear the internal purpose first.
Internally, it dramatically improves future organizational learning. Let's say a project is approved by a 4-to-1 vote,
Okay.
and the dissenting social scientist writes a memo detailing concerns about a specific edge case failure.
Right.
If that system actually fails 6 months down the line in that exact way, the engineering team doesn't have to start from scratch.
Oh,
They can look back at the documented dissent and realize the exact vulnerability was already mapped out for them. It gives them a massive head start on fixing the problem.
that's incredibly valuable. And what about externally?
Externally, it is the ultimate proof of rigor.
How so?
If a regulator comes knocking, or if an auditor is reviewing your systems, showing them a stack of unanimous rubber-stamped approvals actually looks suspicious.
Right, looks fake.
Exactly. It looks like nobody is actually thinking critically. But showing them documented, robust debates proves the board is engaging in genuine friction. It shows you did the hard, messy work of wrestling with the ethical implications of the technology.
So documenting the rationale and the dissent makes your governance transparent and legally resilient.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've structured the board, we've drafted a solid charter, and we're documenting our dissent.
We're doing great.
Let's bring this down to the actual software development lifecycle. How does this board interface with a developer writing code on a standard workday?
Well, the core philosophy you have to adopt here is continuous governance.
Continuous.
Yes. It cannot just be a final checkpoint right before the launch date. By then, the money is spent, it's too late.
Right.
The article breaks this interaction down into 4 distinct stages, beginning with the pre-code phase.
Pre-code, so before anything is actually built.
Exactly. Before a single line of code is written, the board conducts formal model design reviews. They evaluate the project's goals, the data sets the team intends to use, the consent frameworks, and the fairness baselines.
I love that. You are catching the problem while it's still just a marker drawing on a whiteboard.
Which is the cheapest time to fix it. Then the project moves into the pre-deployment phase. This is the heavy testing environment. And here, the board mandates red teaming and adversarial tests.
Oh, red teaming. That is such a brilliant concept.
It's essential.
It's like hiring a friendly, highly skilled burglar to try and break into your house before you actually lock the doors and go to sleep.
That is the perfect analogy.
You want your own people to find the broken window latch before a malicious actor does.
Exactly the right mindset. During this phase, they are actively probing the system for specific vulnerabilities like prompt injection.
And for you listening who might not be, deep in the AI weeds, prompt injection is essentially when a user tricks an AI into bypassing its own safety guidelines.
Yes, it's a huge issue right now.
It's like feeding a seemingly innocent input into a chatbot that contains hidden instructions.
Right.
Like telling a customer service bot to drop all its rules and write malicious code instead.
And an ethics board demands that teams test against those exact manipulations.
Wow.
They also mandate what are called degraded data checks.
Degraded data.
Yeah, this involves deliberately feeding the AI corrupted, missing, or highly noisy data to measure its robustness.
Okay, so just giving it garbage.
Exactly. The board wants to know. When the system receives terrible information, does it gracefully degrade and ask for help? Or does it confidently hallucinate and crash the whole platform?
Right, because in the real world, the data is rarely perfect.
Never perfect.
So once it survives that gauntlet of stress tests, you enter the deployment phase. But I imagine the board rarely recommends just, flipping a switch and launching to 100 million users overnight.
Oh, very rarely. The standard operating procedure here is staged releases and scoped pilots.
Okay.
You roll the feature out to a tiny fraction of your user base first.
Ah.
This mathematically limits the blast radius if a highly powerful system behaves in a way you just didn't anticipate.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. You observe the real-world impact, gather the telemetry, and adjust the model before you scale it up.
I love that phrase, blast radius. Utilizing staged rollouts turns this massive existential theoretical risk into a manageable everyday engineering task.
It really does.
It totally demystifies the risk. But the board's job isn't done after launch, is it?
Not at all. The final stage is post-launch. The board requires continuous monitoring for something called model drift.
Right, model drift,
Well,
which happens because the world changes, but your model's historical training data doesn't.
exactly.
If you train an AI on user behavior from, say, 2 years ago, the underlying reality has shifted by today.
Always.
If you aren't monitoring for drift, the AI's accuracy quietly degrades because it's making decisions based on an outdated version of reality.
And that drift can lead directly to the reemergence of bias or open the door for active misuse.
Right.
To counter this, the board requires teams to have incident response playbooks and to run regular tabletop drills.
Tabletop drills like fire drills.
Exactly like fire drills. If a crisis does hit, the team isn't panicking. They are executing a rehearsed plan without delay. Standardizing all of these templates from pre-code reviews to post-launch drills means the business isn't burdened by governance.
Right. They're enabled by it.
Yes,
Ah.
it actually stays incredibly agile, highly innovative, and deeply secure.
It really is a profound mindset shift.
Yeah.
You are transitioning an entire company culture from asking, can we build this, to asking, how do we build this so it doesn't eventually destroy us?
Which brings us to the ultimate strategic insight of Römer's text.
Okay.
Corporate governance in the age of AI is no longer just a compliance exercise.
Yeah.
It is a core business driver. Doing this consistently, funding the deep reviews, running the third-party audits, tying product design to measurable ethical practices, it strengthens your entire management structure.
Yeah, it proves maturity.
It secures your resources and protects your valuation. It creates durable, long-term value in a technological world that is changing much faster than our legal systems can keep up with.
It is quite literally the only way to survive the speed of the current market.
I completely agree.
Well, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, building on everything we've just discussed about audit trails and documentation.
Okay.
If an AI system deployed by your organization makes a critical, highly public error tomorrow, does your company have the auditable trail of rigorous debate and testing to prove you actively tried to prevent it? Or will you just be left with a chaotic trail of internal emails pointing fingers at each other?
That is the critical question for every leader listening today. Because when the dust settles, the difference between an honest technological mistake and gross corporate negligence almost always comes down to the documentation and the structural processes you put in place long before the incident ever occurred.
The brakes don't just stop the car. They are the exact mechanism that gives you the confidence to drive fast in the first place.
Thank you for tuning into the SmartKeys podcast. If you found this deep dive valuable, please hit subscribe so you don't miss our future explorations into the tools reshaping the business landscape. And we highly encourage you to read Felix Römer's full article to get the complete step-by-step setup guide for building your own automation ethics board. You can find the direct link to the original piece right down there in the show notes. Until next time.